found this confusing yesterday because we have the probability for 70 as 0.1. What it basically means is that, what it means is, what is the probability of us having 70? 0.1 as we were given in the question. Probability for having a demand that will be 70 is 0.1. It's not that, does not affect the fact that are we going to have a stock out or are we not going to have a stock out. Stock out is only calculated based on if stock out exists. Do you understand that now? Let me clarify again. Now, what's the probability that she will come to class today? That's one thing. Then what's the probability that 10 people will come to class today? So it's different. So in order to calculate stock out cost is different from probability of having 70. Now, probability of having 62, which is 0.2, is different from the stock out cost. Why we are calculating stock out cost for 60 demand is because there is a possibility of having a stock out. But when we have 70, there is no stock out. The stock out that we can have when we have 60 is if there is 70. We cannot have stock out if demand is 50 when we have 70. I hope that is clear. Now, okay, let me repeat that again. What is stock out first? You don't have anything to produce or to sell. That's stock out. Okay. When we have 50, we can have stock out, right? When demand is more than what we have stock out. And we're given three situations that can have, three demand that we can have. We can have demand which is 50. We can have demand which is 60. We can have demand which is 70. The stock outs that we can have here is either we have 10 stock out or 20 stock out. Here we can have 10 stock out alone. Here we can have 0 stock out. If demand is 70, no stock out. That's why we have 0. So, and in making the calculation, only one situation can happen here, which is if demand is 70. If demand is 70, what's the probability that demand will now be 70? The probability is 0.1. Now, when we have 50, we don't have safety stock. Safety stock is 0. But two things can happen. We may experience demand of 60, or we may experience demand of 70. So we add the two probability together to get 960. Finish. Then you look at which one we want to compare the cost. Because you know, stock out, holding costs, we add it together, and the loss that we are going to suffer when we have stock out. We add it together to know which one gives us the lowest cost, to know, okay, it is when we have 100, and that's why we are picking that as the safety stock to keep. So when we have a safety stock of 20 is enough for us to have the least cost. But when we have safety stock of 60, there's still possibility of stock out, which is 290. But when we don't even have any safety stock, the cost to the business is 960. And that's the end. So it's safer to have 20 buffer stock, safety stock in place, so that we reduce our losses. Loss that can come from the fact that customers come, they can't get goods from us. Because why are we introducing probability distribution? Because we are not certain. That uncertainty, we are now measuring it with the use of probability. Probability that it will happen, probability that it will not happen. I hope that is clear. So it's the probability we are placing on each one has nothing to do with the quantity. It has nothing to do with the quantity, but it has a lot to do with will it happen or will it not happen. So are we going to have demand of 30? The likelihood is 0.1. That means the possibility that we will not have it is 0.9. Almost sure that we will not have 30. Almost sure that we will not have 40. I hope that is clear to us. Okay, so let's start looking at our review. Go ahead, man.
The second line is safety stock out, while the probability is 0.1. I think it should
Which
be
one? This one? Or this one? This one?
Yeah.
Okay, why is it 0.1? Because for 70, the probability is 0.1. Probability for 70. Here we have 60.
Yes.
Then we have safety stock of 10 in place, right? Because we have chosen the other point of 50. What we have above that is just 10. So there is a possibility that what we kept as our safety stock, which is just 10, demand will exceed that and it becomes 70. The likelihood, if we have 50 here, there will not be stock out. But if we have 70, there will be stock out. So this is the probability, the stock out cost, if 70 happens. And where do we get 0.1? We got 0.1 from here. 0.1 from here.
Why from 60? Because 10 is the difference from 50 and 60. So we take the probability of 60.
Now, if you look at it here, it said the sum of the unit cost. Now, the difference here is when we have 60, what will be the stock out possibility? If we have demand of 70, we have 60 in the warehouse, and people came and they were asking for 70. What stock out do we have? 10. So now, look at the second situation when we are having just 50, right? No safety stock. Two situations will happen. When we have 60 and when we have 70, that's why we use 20 here.
Okay.
We have 50 products in the warehouse.
Okay.
There is a stock out of 20. People demanded 70. Stock out difference 20. Probability of 70.1. Stock out cost per frame 60. Number of period per year 6. That's 70. This is 60.
Yeah.
Two things can happen when you have just 50. 60 or 70. So that's why we had it together. So 60, stock out, if there is a demand for 60, we have 10 difference, not 20. The percentage probability is 0.2, right? Then cost is 40, then 6. Is that clear now? Now, let's say for instance, we have third situation, let's say 30, 80, and there is no stock out. We also have just the holding cost. That would be 30 times 5, 120. Because when we have so much safety cost, we also be incurring holding cost, but there will not be stock out. When we have 100 safety stock, multiply by 5, making 500, proving the fact that When you have safety stock in place, what you'll be having is holding costs increasing, but there will not be stock out. But you want to strike a balance. Which one will give you the lowest? So instead of keeping like 30 safety stock, it's not reasonable. Let's just keep 20 when it's going to be 100. If we keep 30, you know what the cost will be? Like 150. And keeping 20, which is 100, is cheaper. Now that is correct. You good now? Okay. So, any question? So, let's start with, because of our time. Now, we have all the questions on location strategies. You should be able to solve those questions on location strategies and forecasting. Then also understand the various the variations and the understanding of what can cause those errors. Random variation, the various type of time series analysis that we have, you should understand that. So who can remind me that? The time series analysis that we did in forecasting. We don't know it? Time series. We are told to list the various methods of forecasting in time series. No idea. Okay. Exponential smoothing, weighted average. You should know how to do this calculation and understand what their impacts, what makes them different, which one is better. Please understand some of these things. You can encounter that in your multiple choice questions. So, we also looked at the various, let's look at, okay, this one is coming up. We looked at location strategies. That you do not only think of the cost alone. What are some other things you need to take into consideration when making location decisions? Adibayo. Exchange rate, forex, political situation in the country, culture, work ethics. So you should understand this and how it impacts location strategy, because it's a strategy. It's a strategy that you don't actually embark upon frequently, because you cannot have your plant in this place now, and next month you say you are moving to United States, and 2 years time you're moving to Brazil. It's not something you can quickly change, like see if you're changing employees. Okay. Then we also looked at clustering. What is clustering? Clustering. What is clustering?
When several manufacturers lie located in the same area or same region.
So please understand some of these things. No, you will not be required to write too much words. You just need to write short words. I'm listening, madam. Question? Okay, now when it comes to forecasting, which one is more reliable reliability in terms of period?
Change position.
No. When we're talking about, we talked about the fact that when you have a long period, that question is for you. Then you have data from short period. Which one is more reliable?
Short period.
Short period.
Why?
Because there is more margin of error in the large period.
Okay. So you should understand this. You should be able to also explain why you prefer, you take one option and why you will not take the other. So we also looked at cyclical.
Can you repeat it?
Product life cycle.
Madam.
You are talking about the life cycle. Cyclical.
We talked about random forecasting, right? Where we cannot predict. So, what do we talk about that?
Random. It's for unforeseen event. Short duration, not repeated.
Since you guys don't want my PowerPoint to come up,
You can shut down and
I should shut. It's not coming up. Everything is blank. Don't know what is that. Don't know what to do. All right. What should I do?
close it and open.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't even want it to open before. Okay. Now we add some calculations. Respect of factor rating. You need to know how to make these calculations. The location break-even analysis. The total costs. And I've given us examples and practice of some of this, right? So if you have them in multiple choice, you know how to calculate them. You guys are.
So what are the questions that, like the calculation for the short answers, what is it basically on? Is it
It's based on only location, forecasting, and just more aspect of the 5.
You said NO3 and 4 alone for the two.
No, I've been talking about everything.
Oh,
Yes, we can do another review again, right? Tomorrow is quiz.
you said 25 minutes and we have another 20 minutes.
You want to do something else afterwards?
Yeah.
Logistic, logistic. So I know we can't do much. So majorly our review is today. So, but if we have time, we continue to do review.
So
what I'm
the
expecting from you guys is to be asking questions.
So the midterm 2 is multiple choice and
Yes, it's combination.
how many
32
more?
questions, multiple choice. 3 short answers, which are theoretical. 3 short answers, which are mathematics.
How many quiz? 12?
12 multiple choice.
Multiple
12
choice.
multiple
12.
choice. Then like 3 short answers. You guys are very lucky with those questions.
No.
So you understand how to make calculation of all these. These are the things you know already. So there's no big deal. So no big deal. What else? Any other question? I know you guys are very prepared.
No.
So what else? Ask questions.
kind of thing or explaining kind of thing? Any
On which one?
short answers?
Just short answers.
Like
No partial mark. You miss one, you miss it.
So we just think,
will you be asking definitions or will you be asking us to explain the concept? Explain the concept.
In the theoretical
Short answer,
questions,
yeah.
yes, it will be applied question, but just need to just explain.
As for the
That is
midnight.
like a case study kind of thing?
Yes, yes. It's short, like maximum of 5 words. Simple.
no, simple for you.
Can you give us an example of what you're talking about? We don't understand.
Okay, take for instance now. You are being told that why will you choose a particular area to have a business? Because there is an IT company there. Invariably, it's telling you about clustering, right? So you just say, because of clustering, advantages derived from that. You just state it. Just a few words. No, the story, if the story is narrating, say, Newsjoy is known for IT, and you're starting a business and you want to start an IT company. Why will you want to start your business in Newsjoy where you have other IT companies?
Okay.
Is that should come to you that, oh, because of clustering. So you don't need to now explain this is type of clustering, giving example, all that are not needed. Just short answers. Yes, minimum 5 words. Minimum. Yes, maximum 5 words. 10 words. 20 words. Yes. Words. Yes.
Then one line.
Yes. Just an understanding is what is needed. You can see it's very simple. What else do you need? Okay, let's the center of gravity. We did this calculation in class, and we have examples. You know,
Just
what?
one example.
Is any like question requires us to grab
No.
the dot of the
No. It's not to graph. Okay.
Interpretation of graph.
No.
No graph.
no graph?
No graph.
any
No
graph.
graph. No graph.
Yeah, no any graph.
No graph.
Okay, so
No
sorry,
graph.
we can run.
Okay. What else?
We're running.
I think you guys are okay now, right?
O sea, como ahorita en el mapa estudiar esta mierda, terminó
They are providing the formula.
Yes. You have the formulas. You don't need to cram. You have the formulas.
So the answer we will look like the exercise you gave us. You will tell us what the method we still will apply for this.
Yes, necessary guidance will be provided.
Yeah.
But just when you know how to, oh, this question is about exponential smoothing. This
Okay.
one is about moving average. You know with the question
Yeah.
because you've practiced it before.
Yeah.
The only people that will not know are the people that don't come to class.
Yeah, but it should be smaller numbers.
Yes, that's why
Yeah.
it's 12 questions. It's not long descriptions.
So there are calculations in the multiple choice as well.
Yeah.
So
Yes. So bring your calculator.
Okay.
Okay. So let's look at but the majority of the questions are basically 3, 4, and 5 for your midterm. So you understand the steps in respect of factor rating method. Develop the relevant factors called the key success factors. Assign weight to each of the factors. The one that you want to give priority to, and score each location for each of the factors. These are some of the things that we've done, and we have examples. And
So we should know the steps apart from the calculation.
this year.
No,
Yeah.
it's the step that will help you to know how to do it, right? So you don't need to state the step. You don't need to state the step. Then let's look at forecasting.
Only one question from you.
Huh? I've not even seen the question, so I can only guide you.
You're not the one setting it.
No. I'm only guiding
For the midterm or for the quiz?
everything.
Ah.
Let's look at forecasting.
So what if they said something you've not thought?
No. I'm involved in it, so I'm just playing. So we also looked at the forecasting approaches. Time series, monitoring and controlling forecast, then forecasting in the service sector. Let's move forward. I've talked about this short range forecast and the long range forecast, the different periods, and the benefits and the reliability of the forecast for all this forecasting time horizon. Then the distinguishing differences in the forecast. So, and how they are actually being used. Then tend to be more accurate. That's the question that I asked the other time. Short-term forecasts tend to be more accurate than long-term forecasts. So if you'll be jotting down, there is no way you will get somewhere of these things. So then we also looked at the product life cycle, from introduction to growth to maturity to decline. And majorly all products pass through all this, but there are some products that stay long in maturity, which may depend on a whole lot of factors. Useful in projecting, you can make use of projections in terms of your inventory level, factory capacity, or staffing level. Then we looked at economic forecast, where we make use of data from money supply, inflation rate, technological progress, or demand forecast. So we did various examples of predicting sales, and we also looked at strategic importance of it. So you should be able to answer questions relating to forecasting when it comes to using it to make decisions in respect of your supply chain management, human resources, or in terms of capacity. Okay, so the various steps. You determine the use of the forecast. You select item to be forecasted, the time horizon of the forecast. Is it for 3 years? Is it for 3 months or 1 year? Then we also looked at, we talked about the fact that if you have small data, you can use for a longer period. It will not be reliable. You have data for just 6 months. You want to use it to make a forecast, a prediction for next 5 years. That will not be reliable. Okay. Then gather the data, make the forecast, then validate and implement the results. So the results you get from your forecast, you should be able to interpret it. That this is the implication of the forecast. Then understand the various errors that we also looked at. Often sit down perfect, really perfect. So most techniques assume underlying stability and we looked at qualitative method, which can be used in terms of new products, new technology, and the experience and the intuition of the managers and people making the forecast can influence outcome of it. Qualitative, here there is less use of data, more you rely more on your intuition, on what you want, on your experience. Okay. However, we looked at the quantitative, where we talked about existing product, current technology, and we make use of different mathematical models to also explain that. We also look at the jury of executive opinion, where people are pulled together to make a forecast based on the fact that they are experts. Then the DEVI method, a panel of experts queried and use information from both that are inside the organization too. Then we have the Salesforce composite, where sales people may be asked, what will be sales next month? Welcome back. What will be the sales next month? What do you think the target should be for next year? Then we have consumer survey, where we distribute survey for people to actually respond. Do you like our service? Am I able to solve your problem today? Am I able to provide good service? And we now looked at the time series models. Then we look at the associative model. For the time series, we're making use of past data. What happened yesterday to predict tomorrow. And we used various methods. The associative, we're making use of those other variables that will determine what the outputs, what the forecast should be. Those other things that are associated with the particular product or production or thing that you want to forecast. Associative model, where we make use of linear regression. Okay, so set of evenly spaced numerical data obtained by observing responses. We've talked about this. We make use of the past to predict the future. Here, no other variable is important. What happened yesterday? What happened 2 days ago? What happened 3 days ago is what we're using. Then we looked at the various time series components. Understand each of these components and their usage, their reliability, the trend, the cyclical, the seasonal, the random. Please do.
Everything.
Yes, yes. Everything, yes, please. Yes. You are having multiple choice questions and it's expected. So we have this depicting what you can have when you have a random variation, when you have a trend component, when the actual is also there. Then you also have the average of what you have over the 4 years. And we use that graph to break down what it means. Winter period, a lot of people buy winter jackets, season. During summer, sales goes down. So you can also make a prediction or a forecast based on that. A trend analysis, an upward or downward pattern following a particular pattern. So you may be asked to provide your understanding of that. Then when it comes to seasonal, periodic, it may be based on weather, like the example I just used, or holiday period, or happens once a year, so it may come in any of these forms. Then cyclical, affected by business cycle, recession, boom. It's been predicted now that Canada may witness a recession next year. Then the United Kingdom may also witness a recession next year. So it may involve you comparing multiple years to know what what happened now, what will happen again. So it's following a pattern that is cyclical. It goes on, it comes back to that. Okay, so maybe due to politics, it may be due to economic factor as well. It may also be due to business cycle. Then we'll look at the random, unsystematic, erratic. You can't predict it due to random variation on a foreseen circumstance. Short term, it may be non-repeating, like what we have with COVID period. Then the next one may happen next 50 years. So it's pretty difficult to make a focus on that. Then the naive approach. Here, basically, January we have 68, so February we have 68. Naive, pretty simple. Often to use when you just starting up, you lack data. So when business progresses, you can start having data to rely on to make prediction. But if you start business, for instance, yesterday or last month, you want to what will happen the following month, you can just basically make use of what you experienced the previous month to determine what will happen in the following month. It's often used as a good starting point. Cost effective, you do not need to spend much in gathering data or getting experts. So you should understand some of these advantages and disadvantages. Then the moving average. Well, I believe almost everyone in the class understand how to do all these calculations, right? Yes. So, series of arithmetic mean. We sum everything together, then we divide by the number of periods. Then again, and we use the example in class. We did this example in class where we are dropping the oldest one. Then we use that to look at what will happen. So then we also put the three, the moving average, the weighted moving average on a graph, and we look at the weighted moving average, where we placed weights for each of the data we are using. Okay? What happened in January, we want to place more weight, more priority on it than what happened in February. Okay? An example of that is what we have here. We multiply each of the weights by the actual sales in order to get and divide that by the sum of the weights. Okay? Now, I know, is there anyone that doesn't know how to calculate this? Do we? It's too much, yes. Yes. I suspect. So it should be simple question. So once you have the understanding, pretty simple. So potential problems here where you are not having questions in respect of mathematics, then you should understand what are the potential problems that will come when you're making use of moving average. Like it requires extensive historical data. These are some of the disadvantages. If you lack data, you may not be able to make use of it. So it does not forecast trend well, and increasing the end smooth, that is the number of periods, smooth the forecast but makes it less sensitive to changes. So when the period covers a longer period, you tend to have the difference will not be that much. But if you're comparing just within 3 months, any change will the forecast you get will be very sensitive to the fact that is actually a short period. If one data for the following month increase so much, it will affect the average that you get. But when you are comparing a period like 20 years, for instance, a change in one may not actually reflect in the outcome that you get. So we should understand this. So then exponential smoothing involves little record keeping of past data. When, if you are being told, between moving average, exponential smoothing and weighted moving average. Which one should you use when you lack so much data? Pretty simple, right? You know that exponential smoothing is what you use because it requires less historical record keeping. So, and we use this formula for it, which will be provided, and you do the calculation. Pretty easy. Adebayo, what happened?
It's too much.
No, it's not much. The calculation aspects is just few. That's what I'm saying. So the theoretical understanding is one matter. Okay, any question or any clarification? So all this will be provided, but you don't have all these calculations so much there. It's not so much. It's not so much. If you've done all the exercises we have on Brightspace, the mathematics is out of it, shouldn't be a problem. And the only thing we'll be having on 5 should be the economic order quantity. Economic order quantity, mostly, where you make use of 2dx divided by h. And so you don't have much in that area. Any other question, please? Any other question? Okay. So, if you are faced with a question that is asking you to calculate mean absolute deviation, you know how to do it. So you should have your calculator. If you have a question asking you to calculate mean, you should know how to do it. Okay. Any question? You're good, right? Okay. You can be assured that you have that's how to calculate the math for that. And all this PowerPoint is on Brightspace for us. So, we're good. Any question? So, we can see in tomorrow's class. No. Not so much.
The exam of tomorrow is paper based?
Yes, it's paper. It's paper based. Okay, you guys will have love online, right? We don't, it should be very difficult to get all of us. We need to book it.
No, porque como es contrato se va a ir todos los días. ¿Qué más quieres decir?
Okay, guys.
Okay, thank you.